There we go.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello, we are back again. Apologies for the keep pushing back the time for this, but we're finally here.
We got together. That's what matters. We're here now.
Yeah. I have to confess I needed like an extra 30 minutes because I was still not done. This book actually took me so much longer to read, but hi everyone again. It's Club Book Buzz, and if you aren't familiar, this month I guess last month was July, we did the 5th season. So yeah, that's what we're discussing today. Ooh, looks good. Oh, you put your sticker down here.
Yes, I did.
It's always opposite on the screen than it is to. Oh,
yes.
Oh, there.
There it is.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can discuss this book and do it justice because I literally just finished it, so I'm still like.
It's a lot to process. I feel like I'm still going to be thinking about this book for a while. It's just one of those books that has a lot in it.
It's a lot. And I always try to tell myself, like, oh, I'm going to go back and I'm going to have to reread this part for a bit before the discussion. It never happens. So we're just going to go.
There's just not enough time.
No. Especially because it's almost 500 pages. It took me quite a while to finish this. It kept, like, trying to chug away at it, and I was like, there's still, like, 200 pages left. Still 100 pages left. Okay. But, do you want me to give a little rundown of what this was about, or do you want to?
I'll let you do it. I think I did last month, right?
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully.
Your turn.
So this book was the first novel in a trilogy called the Broken Earth trilogy. It's by N.K. Jemisin, and it's actually, I believe all 3 books in this series have won the Hugo Award, which is the award for the best sci-fi fantasy novel of the year. I believe they vote on which was the best of the year. I think it was either 2015 for this one. So it's really cool how all 3 of
2016.
2015. Oh, 2016. Oh, weird. Wikipedia. Okay.
Don't trust Wikipedia.
Yeah, don't trust me. I know, it's literally right on the book. So it's, like I mentioned, a sci-fi fantasy. We follow, now I know that we follow really a couple characters, but at the beginning of when I first started reading, I thought it was multiple characters, but we learn towards the end that it's actually one person's storyline. So we follow, I don't even know whose name to choose. I'm going to just call her Cyanite. Cyanite, Alabaster, and a few other side characters through this world. I don't even know if I can sum up everything.
It's really hard.
It is in like a single word.
Without giving away too many spoilers. So we are going to apologize right now if we give away spoilers, because it's really hard to talk about this book and not do that.
Yeah, I think most of our discussions are pretty spoilery. We're hoping people coming to the discussion have hopefully read the book. So yeah, spoilers.
Or at least be mostly through it and okay with spoilers.
Yeah.
So some people like them.
The world is it's kind of all one continent, and there's people that are called orogenes, and they have certain abilities to kind of tap into the earth, and they can quell earth shakes, and they can but they're also being controlled by the population. There's different cities within this. Does the whole continent have a name? Yes, the Stillness. It's called the Stillness, and there's different large cities within the Stillness. And yeah, we go on a journey with one orogene, and we kind of go along on her story, but her younger self as a child and a young adult self and then more of a middle-aged self. And you think while you're reading it that you're reading multiple characters' point of views, but it really comes together at the end when you learn that it's actually just one character. She has multiple different names. So yeah, that's a massive spoiler. So if you haven't read this yet, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even know how I can even begin. There's just so much. And so maybe we should just move on to what if we liked it, if we didn't like it.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did. I really enjoyed this book.
Yeah.
This is definitely up my alley. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I like that it was kind of like post apocalyptic almost. Like there's in the future, I can see like how the world could end up like that. Like looking at today and like, oh yeah, you have these seasons of death, and it's kind of like, which is what the fifth season is you have the regular seasons, and then you have this period of time where something bad has happened, whether it's been like a fungus that's wiping everyone out and killing things, or they had these big algae blooms at one point, or a volcano eruption and there's ash everywhere. So it's very much based in science, and you can see that happening. And if you've lost a lot of your technology to deal with that, it would wipe you out. So the whole kind of society is built around preparing for those time periods.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just really like that I could kind of see it still happening, but still has that kind of fantasy element where like you can manipulate and control Earth, this kind of subsection of people who are viewed as subhuman, kind of like, and they are human, I think, but it's like kind of deeming them unworthy so that you can get away with enslaving them. And then there's even these characters called, what are they called? Stone eaters who eat stone. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this book. Yeah,
interesting elements. I have to say, for the first maybe half of this book, I hated it because I think it's just the writing and the storytelling is so unique from anything that I've personally ever read. Especially with like the second person starting out and not knowing what all these different characters. I was like, we kept jumping around from Demaya and then Sina and Alabaster, and I was like, well, where's the connection here? Like, I feel like I'm being thrown around. Though I did really enjoy reading certain passages with these characters, but then you get thrown over, and then we're in another like time period or different area. I'm like, what's going on here?
There wasn't that nice flow at the beginning. It was very choppy, and it kind of leaves you scrambled around a little bit.
But this is what I love about our book club is like, I feel if I was just didn't have to finish this, I'd been like, okay, I don't know what's happening here. I might not have finished this. But then you get to that point where there's a payoff. Where you're like, oh, okay, wow, that's so clever, actually. I just, for a while I was like, where is this going? Where are the connections between these characters? It just felt all very random. And I think there's an element of mystery throughout all of this because nothing's really like explained to you. It is and it isn't, but you're kind of just thrown in and you have all these terms and but once I started getting like maybe 75% the way in, stuff started happening and I was like, okay, this is book I love and hate it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really excellent. Honestly, I would say it's an excellent book.
Yes, I liked kind of what you were just saying there about like you don't quite know what's going on, but you kind of do. And I think that's because it does a really good job of like all the explanations are from when she is a child. So it's very much your limited perspective as a child, and you don't necessarily see those other views or make that connection from the other characters that turn out to be the same one.
Right. I think it's been a while though where I've had a book be like kind of shock me in a way where there's certain passages where I was like, I was glued to the page being like, wow, like this is such clever storytelling, in my opinion.
The
Especially,
only thing that shocked me was the end.
yeah.
That's the rest I saw actually.
Oh,
I
really?
think it was like chapter 4 where I was like, these are probably the same character, different ages.
Oh,
Um,
you were already tuned into
I
it
saw
right
that
away.
coming.
Over here, like, who is this child? Like, when are the characters gonna come together?
It was, I think I picked it up because they were describing like their physical characteristics, and I was like, these are all the same. Like,
Maybe sometimes I'm oblivious to stuff like that.
I don't know.
I can
I
overlook
feel like I
that.
pick up that because I want to imagine myself as the character, and I was like, oh, okay,
Oh,
this is like me. This one isn't. Oh wait. Um, but no, only the ending surprised me, and I'm really happy that it's like there's another book because if that was the ending, I would be very upset because I'm left with so many questions.
exactly. I
Nothing is resolved.
I read the ending very quickly because our discussion was coming up. So I'm
Yeah.
still kind of stuff happened, and then you think a character dies, and then he's actually comes back, but he's still dying. And there was just so much that happened in this past hour. I was just sitting on my bed, like, how am I going to discuss this? I've just experienced it.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I thought he was dead. I really did.
Yeah.
Like that's the end. He's gone. Oh wait, but you're still
Yeah.
alive, but you're also
He's actually
sick.
one of my favorite characters too. Alabaster.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna say it. It's if you're
Yeah,
watching at this point, you
we've spoiled it already. Sorry.
yeah. Alabaster, I feel like was one of my favorite characters. I feel from the first moments of dialogue that we get from him, he had like the most personality, I think.
Yes, and I want to know so much more about like his thoughts and motivations because we really don't know them. And then at the end, they're like okay, maybe like he's trying to like sabotage like the main city and like he wants to cause like a rebellion. I kind of gathered that, but at the same time, it's really talking about how he just wants like this home life with his
Yeah,
son, and so you have like these two kind of conflicting goals that he has, but you don't have tons of information on either of them or really who he is or his past. Like, you have so many questions
right.
about like
Hopefully, we get the answers to those questions in the next two books.
how did they have this system for um, the characters that can like control the earth where if they go to the city and go to school they get these rings that denote how powerful they are and kind of their privileges and what they can do, and he is kind of the maximum, the 10 ringer. We have no idea how he got 10
I think
rings,
it's a really
and it's
that's
especially
a cool concept.
and
I
it's
like
really cool just because like he's got 10 rings, but all these people are commenting on, I struggle with names, cyanite. Is that how you say
it.
it?
Cyanide, yeah.
Okay, I was okay. Good.
I had
Got
the
it right.
audiobook, which was excellent. Totally recommend the audiobook because a lot of the characters have really interesting accents, and the author or the narrator does all the characters in like different voices, and I recommend the
Okay,
audiobook. It's awesome.
good. But they keep talking about how she's like possibly more powerful than him.
Mm-hmm.
So I really kind of want to see what that all is about.
I think Cyanide is a badass character, to be honest.
What were your kind of favorite parts involving her? So that's when she goes by that name, it's kind of like she's a young adult, like our age.
It's yeah, a young adult. But that's how I picture her. Is it's kind of I still have a hard time right now, even um, equating Asun and Sina as the same character because for so long I while reading this book for a whole month I thought they were just two different characters. So and I pictured them differently. And so in my mind they're still different characters. What was my favorite part? I just think she's really ambitious throughout the whole novel, and I like that she has a firm kind of belief that this isn't right, the way we're being treated is not right, and she wants to do something about it. And whereas Alabaster, a lot of my favorite passages were from the island of Meov. Like I loved those characters on the island and the way that they were interacting with those people, and they kind of were able to have some peace there at
Mm-hmm.
Meov and creating some sort of a life free of the, uh, the Fulcrum and
Fulcrum.
Guardians. Yeah, so those were kind of some of my favorite passages. And when we skip a lot of time too. So we see her,
Mm-hmm.
become a mother, and she talks about the love for her son and how she didn't want a child, but she does. It's a weird dynamic between like the family that she has there and all the people. It's kind of like this village. They're all one. They're all helping raise the children, and I don't know. I just kind of liked reading about that, and but then she kind of has this like ache for more and a little bit of adventure. She wants to get off the
Mm.
island. So I find she's just a very like ambitious character, and I just found it fun
I
to read.
I think she likes the idea of settling down, but almost feels trapped there because she didn't choose it or work to be
Yeah.
able to settle down. It was kind of handed to her, and it wasn't quite what she wanted. So she kind of can be happy there. And I think too, like she even talks about when she's on that island how she doesn't really understand love and what does it mean to love, and does she actually love like her son and the people here, or does she not? She definitely wants to care for them. And I thought that was just really interesting because like she was not shown love as a child, right? She's ripped away from her home slash given away because she's
Right.
different, and then raised in this strict school environment where they're basically talking about how at any moment they could accidentally kill or ice someone, and also just like it's very power based, like, oh, we'll break your hand because we said we could and we want you to listen to us.
Shafa,
If you say
her
no,
guardian, right? It was
yeah.
her guardian. It's a very weird relationship because she feels like she does kind of try to explain like I love my guardian, but also she fears him. It's like
So
a very
that relationship to me was like almost like Stockholm syndrome. Like they show you a little piece of kindness, so you're falling in love with your like captor who's manipulating you and everything
so,
like that.
so strange. But she has this sense where she's like, "This is not right. My son deserves more." Uh,
Mm-hmm.
which makes me think of that scene where they think they find Alabaster's son in one of the node stations.
Yeah.
So the node stations are like these stations set up throughout the continent to where they, origins are being controlled. So they place different origins at all these nodes to, I guess, stop earthquakes
I
from happening so that civilization can kind of continue.
I think that was my understanding, that it was like I thought of it as like your cell phone towers
Yeah, a
where
little
they're
bit.
like trying to overlap their coverage as much as
Yeah,
possible. But as you get farther away from the main cities, it doesn't quite work. And that, yeah, at each of those places, they have an origin to like quell the earthquakes or like just kind of take care of that area so that it is still and it is the stillness. Um, but then they take some of them into the further stations. They put these powerful ones who they can't control or who have their own ideas and basically like
yeah,
drug them up, and because they automatically kind of, I guess, like they say, suss it out and try and quell it. So just drug them up and like torture them so they automatically do all that.
yeah. So you said like suss it out. So I find she has a lot of really cool terminology that she does. I love that she doesn't explain it. It's just something that's intertwined within the story, and then you kind of figure it out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really cool concept that they have like this organ. It's a different organ than humans have, the cecipine, and that's the organ
Yeah.
that allows them to, I guess, connect and feel the earth. There's a few passages I typed up here where it's really cool how, like, I love the geologic aspect of it. I think that's a really unique thing. Here, I
And I
have,
liked that a lot of it was like accurate. Like it wasn't just made up things
yeah,
about geology. It's like, no, some of these terms are like the proper terms, and that is
yeah.
how that works and happens. Like
I'm trying to
even
find
just
it here.
talking about like, so at the end she like stops the volcano basically, or so she like talks about how she has the different layers in the strata of the rock, and how that creates like it's harder for earthquakes to form there because it's more pressing down and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's pretty accurate. So
Yeah,
like
it's very
it's
cool.
really cool.
And I Googled so many things like orogeny is a real thing, a real term. I love how she
Yep.
uses real scientific geologic terms and she, intertwines it into her like fantasy world.
Yes.
This is an
Because yeah, and
sorry, what were you gonna
it's an
say?
area that it's an area that like isn't in a lot of books. Like if there's going to be science in the book, it's almost always like genetics, maybe some form of medicine, or like even
Yes.
like astrology or astronomy, and you're like, I want some other things.
Yeah,
I
this is
like
such a
theology,
cool concept.
geography.
It's
So
almost as if it's apocalypse. It's kind of dystopian because you're right. It's more in the future because she explains how humans are have poisoned the water and they've poisoned the air and but then you're kind of the earth is transforming back into primordial earth when things weren't as stable, back in primordial earth. So it's really cool. It's kind of like dystopian in the future, but then it's kind of
also the reverting back, which is
it's very
yeah,
cool.
what you'd kind of expect. But
So yeah, I just think like throughout the whole book, I definitely think the writing was really good, and the world and the concepts were really good. So I'm really happy that I did start really enjoying it towards the end, with more of the dialogue and the characters and stuff, because I was like, oh, this would be such a waste for me if such a cool concept if I didn't end up enjoying it. But I have to say that I did.
I think too, at the ending, you see a little bit more to the characters and who they are. Where at the beginning, a lot of it is them just like going kind of on these journeys, really. Like basically, all three are leaving on a journey at the beginning, and it's kind of more not even like plot based, but just setting the scene and having them go out.
Yes,
And things are happening, but you don't really know who they are. And you can't really identify with them or connect with these characters until you start to have those dialogues towards, I
exactly.
guess, towards the middle. And they talk about their motivations and feeling, right?
And when they
So you
start
can,
more connecting together, when Cyanide and Alabaster start to have more of a relationship, you start caring more for the characters. Where as throughout a lot of the first half of the book, you're just kind of thrown in, and you're they're just kind of going on a journey. But towards the end, you start caring more for the characters, and that's what I really love from books, from especially trilogies. I love that. Now I can go read the next one. I feel like okay, I know the characters a little bit now. I care for them. Um,
mm-hmm.
so like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I just have something on the screen here. Can you see it?
no,
Oh,
I can
okay.
only see you. I can only see you and me.
Hi. So I'll just read it. It says, it would ice everything. There's not enough warmth or movement anywhere to do that much damage. I just wrote that because it's cool to learn how their power works, where it
Mm.
comes from warmth or movement of the earth, or warmth from the rocks, or I just it's very cool. I wish you could see it, but
But
you
it
can't.
kind of makes me think of like physics, where it's like you just transfer energy,
hmm
kind of like that. So it's like they're not really creating it; they're just moving it around to suit their needs.
For a bit there, I kind of got, have you seen the new Star Wars movies? The Last Jedi
I
and Luke
I
Skywalker.
saw one of them. I did not see that.
Oh no, okay.
I
Well, Luke
know.
Skywalker is teaching Rey, how to tap into the Force.
Yeah.
And she's like feeling the rocks so she can shift the rocks. And I was just like getting kind of Star Wars vibes, where it's like, ooh, it's the Force.
It kind of is, like a
You know?
life force that they're connecting to and
Yeah,
moving the
it's
Earth's
it's
forces.
less where like the Force is the life force of everything, where this is the life force of like the Earth itself, like the crust and the mantle and the magma and the volcanoes, and I just kind of
It's energy.
away when I was reading it. I was like, ooh, is this like kind of like the Force? I kind of like that.
What did you think of hers and Alabaska's relationship? Like,
I liked their relationship
it was,
because they're forced into it, right? So it's kind of,
yeah,
but eventually you would have to start to, care for a person. If you
yeah,
were
if you want,
forced to be with someone, forced to have someone's child, but eventually human beings, like all that time they've spent together, they're
if
very,
you haven't killed someone,
sorry?
if you haven't killed each other, then you must have some sort of acceptance for each other.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't see them killing each other. I don't know if they would have, either of them would have had the any motivation to kill one another, because they were kind of in it together.
Yeah.
They're both being controlled. They're both being sent on a mission to Alia, on a mission to clear the coral out of the harbor. And they're being controlled, but then they kind of find this freedom together, and they kind of have like just like eventually a mutual respect for one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the respect too is like founded in recognizing that the other one is like a strong, capable person, but also like the respect in that they are also fighting this battle and also don't think it's right and like trying to figure out what they should do. Like
We're on the
they may
same
have
path,
different
we recognize.
yeah. I think that really brings them together, recognizing that like just how evil the Fulcrum and Guardians are and like how they manipulate and control everything.
Mm-hmm. So would you say there's a lot of parallels from this book to The City of Brass that we read last in June?
Mm,
Or you get the
I
feel at all that I mean, they're very different, but there's still that sense of less, like a subgroup of humans that are deemed less than, which is like a running theme
yeah.
two books have.
So I think in terms of theme, they are similar in that they are dealing with like oppression and what it is to be oppressed um and a little bit too just kind of like not as much in City of Brass, but like this idea of love and what it is and like you grow into love as opposed to just having it. Which I was kind of like a fresh perspective. I really did like it was growing into love as opposed to like so many other books. They immediately fall in love, which I don't think that's how things work.
No,
So
definitely not. You
I
can
did
have
like that.
maybe potentially an instant attraction, which we see, which is funny. Both our main characters have an instant attraction to another. What's his name?
Inon,
Inan.
Inon,
Yeah. But I like what you're saying. Like they grow into love. She eventually grows to love Alabaster, but she also is. She does question that.
yeah, like it's a very different love, and it's not like your typical romantic love, which was really nice. That it was there's kind of romance, but not really. There's sex. There's not a romance.
No, yeah,
That's what there is.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so But going back to your question about like, do I see parallels with City of Brass, which was last month's book? Yes, with just the general idea of oppression and what it is. Um, Beyond that, I didn't really see many parallels, but I wasn't looking for them. I feel like if I sat down and like started going through it, I could definitely draw more parallels. Could probably write an essay or something.
Don't worry,
Um,
I won't make you write an essay.
Thank you. Done
I
in
was
school for a little
just
bit.
you had thought I just when I just thinking about it, I just thought, these are two worlds where there's a group that feels controlled by another group
Hmm.
and they're deemed different um, based on like a set of certain characteristics or it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to learn more about why exactly they are trying to control origins
I do think that's
and
like an
why
interesting
origins they have
parallel is
so much
that,
power. How, oh, right, Guardians, and to learn more about like Guardians. For a while there, I was
yes,
wondering, well, why they have so much power? Like, why? How can they be controlled? Can't they just shoot rocks at these people and
yeah, like they would be like the Stone Eaters and just you let them do what they want.
yeah. But
Um,
then we learn more
I
about
do think it's,
Guardians and
yeah,
what
it
that's
is
all
interesting though, just how like both books, it's very much they want to control this population because there's like a free advantage. Not that they necessarily actually think that they're awful or that they're gross. It's the people in power, like, oh no, we have this free advantage. And it's useful to keep them squashed, essentially. And then we can keep that occurring by making the rest of the population hate them or deem them less than human and give them
about.
slang words and things like that. I thought that was a really interesting aspect too. So like one of the slang words that they are called is roga,
Yeah,
and just how they kind of take it on themselves and start using it because they're like, no, we're going to be proud of who we are. Um, and I thought that was a really cool kind of shift. And like it's a lot of the older ones, um, almost like they're more mature and being like, no, that is who I am and I accept that. And you may think it's like a derogatory term, but I am now proud of who I am. So
exactly. Um, I'd love to hear. I kind of flew through this part where we flash forward to Usan,
yeah,
and
Busan.
she meets up with this little boy and whatever kind of race or creature he is, and then
Stone Eater.
Wonky and Ika, and she finds this calm that's underground with these apartments made of glowing
Crystal.
crystal. What do you think about that part? I thought that was really, I mean, I don't know where that's going, but
Yeah, I
I thought that
don't
was
know
so,
where it's going.
I think just the visualizations I get from this book are really
Yes,
strong, which I love. Like I feel like I just find it so creative, her world building.
yes. I like the idea too of like the little things that you she added to make it almost more realistic. Like, oh, they have these tilted crystals and there's flat floors,
Yeah.
but like we're not going to forget that you're in a crystal that's tilted and could fall over or feels like it's going to fall over. And it kind of made it more fun and like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. Like I'd be inside, like you walk on glass floors that are totally fine and it freaks us out. So like
Yeah.
almost like the little bits of human psychology, or like she follows the wet footsteps and stuff, and like
Mhm.
just like the maze of levels and how she's like, oh, I had to backtrack, but then I was like too proud to ask for help, and like I can identify with that.
Yeah. I know. I mean, look, I have all these little tabbies. Like this is just the
Yeah.
last little bit.
Yes.
There's so many things where it's like, oh my gosh, this is great.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just
I
thought
did.
that the visualizations I get from that part being like, what would this look like? Underground apartments made of crystal. That's awesome.
and they have fans and they have bath water that's coming in. It
Yeah,
reminds me of a lot of like kind of what you were saying before, like this like pre-Earth long ago, kind of reverting back and like some of that,
yeah.
like you have a giant bathhouse that's just like they at least are washing before they're kind of going in the other water, but I'm like, that seems like a way to spread bacteria. Like
Yeah,
some of those little pieces where like that's what you survived, or like this idea of like communities and they want to present looking the same. Um, so like in terms of their housing and that to have like a united front, and I was like, oh yeah, like that's why like all these different places have like distinct architecture and stuff.
I loved too also that they have kind of uh like earth rust, earth fires, rusting, like that's their swearing or their like
Yes,
you know, like oh rust. It's
like
all very
yes,
like themed.
or like eat earth or something,
Yeah.
and it's very like earth focused and
Insult.
yeah,
Yeah. Just looking at my little tabs here. And also there's just so many little details too where there's this part where she mentions that, you know, being an origin, she's so tapped into the earth where there's this moment where she's on Mia cyanide, sorry. Um and she's looking at the night stars and
mm-hmm.
it kind of pulls her away and out from that for a moment. And she talks about like, oh, and I've heard about those pseudoscience like astronometry. So all of the scientific, she's kind of taken a spin on astronomy and geology. It's
Yeah.
like astronomy, which I thought was cool.
I did really enjoy though that like even though it was a little confusing at first,
It
although
was.
I saw it coming, but that this was all like one character because it's kind of like this idea that at different stages in your life you can be like very different, like just with your age and your circumstances. But even through these different ones, like you see this kind of like strong person and some of these similarities. So it's like almost
Mhm.
like your core values and who you are stays the same, but how you present yourself to the world and are responding to situations can change. I thought that was just really cool because I am
And
definitely way
even as
different than I
you,
was like 9 years old.
yeah,
Totally different person.
yeah, for sure. But then she still kind of, you know, there's that scene with Alabaster and Usan at the end where he's kind
Mm-hmm.
of Usan, I mean, Sine, I mean, and then
Yeah.
when Shafa, you know, calls her Demaya again, she does kind of talk about, she's like, oh, whenever I figure out who I am, whatever, whoever that is, or she's
Yeah.
kind of using different names. And I wonder why, I guess she decides to change her name. I wonder what the reasoning is behind that.
Well, at the first name change from Demaya to Cyanite, that's like a very like everyone does that. It's distinct. It's part of your schooling. And I think they make them do that so it's like this separation of them from their past, which allows them to control them more. And then I feel like it was because she was running, right? She was running away from her problem and didn't want to have to go back. So it was more of a convenience, change your name. And once you've lived with that for so long, it would be hard to go back.
Do you want to chat about the fulcrum? Because, sorry, I just thought of something. That
Yeah.
scene with that child, like when we're in Demaya's point of view, and that child sneaks in. She claims to be a leader, and
Yeah.
then they find. So there's so many details in this book, and I feel like they're going to be important for the next book.
Mm-hmm.
They find something in the fulcrum, and then years later, when we're in Usan's perspective, and she meets
So
up
like
with
years
her,
and years later.
yeah, like 30
Yeah.
years, and she's been following her. She
That
kind of
surprised me.
mentions something really important. And I think like I feel like I have to go back because I was listening to the audiobook on 1.75 times the speed. But she explains something about how the fulcrum is creating
The
something found
giant
something in the
amethyst.
fulcrum. Do you know what
Yeah,
that
like
was?
they. My understanding is that they use that to create like the giant, what are they called, obliques, which are like the, yeah, giant floating gems. Um, and I think like they already figured it out that it's going to have something to do with, because there was a stone eater inside the one other, and then even like I feel like it's a way that they were trying to control the stone eaters or something, or use them for power, and that's how they, because like when she can take unlimited power from it, from those giant stones.
Oh,
So I
I
feel
see.
like it was maybe the fulcrum figured out how to power that, and they needed people to be able to control so that they could control that, so
Hmm.
that they could have the stillness that they want. I don't know. Yeah,
I just
a lot of
wanted to hear
questions though.
what you thought that was because I feel like I would definitely. I feel like there's important pieces
Yeah,
there moving forward.
I feel like
In
that
the
needs a reread,
yeah,
uh, or just immediately go into the next book.
I feel like I would have to go immediately into the next book, and maybe when I'm done the whole series, I'll go back and be like, "Oh, it was planted
Oh
right
yeah,
there."
why
What?
didn't I see that?
Yeah. What do you think? At the end of some of the chapters, we get like they talk about like stone lore and the lorists, and we get like these little
And
blurbs.
little quote too
Yeah,
sometimes.
tablet 1 on survival, verse 6. Like, do you think that's from their stone lore books that they have to study, or what do you think those mean? Are they kind of like foreshadowing for something? I feel like that I never knew what. Maybe I'm clearly like,
I
but
feel
like,
like you're kind of right that they were kind of foreshadowing, like the one is like never forget who you are, and then it like cuts to the new character Cyanite.
it kind
Um,
of reminds me of like the Bible in a way.
yeah, very
The
biblical,
little
kind of in how they're written.
how
Um,
they're written,
and
yeah,
there's the stone tablets in the Bible, so
yeah.
very much.
Tablet 2, the
I think,
incomplete truth, verse 7. The stone eater is fully made flesh. Learn the lesson of its creation and beware its gifts. So we just get like these little pieces at the end of some chapters, and
but some of them are really long though too. Like, listen well. There was an age before the season. He would need clever life, blah, 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 blah. Father Earth was needed. We turned on him and he burned with hatred for us ever since. Like, there's these longer sections, and I feel like from those, I got glimpses into kind of like the history of what happens and why they do certain things. Like, why do they have these different classes and different communities in your community name, and like why they're storing food. And I feel like they were yeah, very biblical in sense, but just glimpses into the past.
yeah, yeah. It just kind of yeah, they're very it's biblical.
I found it a little bit odd having them there.
Yeah, but I
Um,
wonder if they're, I was wondering eventually, are these going to be helpful? Judge all by
yeah,
their usefulness, the leaders and the hardy and the fecund and the crafty, the wise and the deadly, and a few strong backs to guard them all. Tablet 1 on survival, verse 9.
yeah. All right.
So,
Those who would take the earth too closely onto themselves, they are not masters of themselves. Allow them no mastery of others. Like, you can see then why they'd want to oppress people because or oppress the origins, because it's like, oh, they can control the earth. We don't want them to control us.
no, right.
Um, but it's tablet 2, the incomplete truth, like verse 9. Um, yeah, I think it's just a way to kind of add this perspective of what everyone else is thinking and why they have these belief systems. Like it's like the City of Brass, like it's almost like the religion that they're following.
Yeah, exactly. And Alabaster, I feel like we didn't get barely anything from him. I feel like there's so much more that he has to tell.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really just want to know about his whole life and like,
Me
yeah,
too.
I have so many questions.
We don't really get to learn too much about. We just basically know that he's a ten ringer and he's fathered
He's
many
seen some
children
crap.
without him. He seemed a
Oh,
little, low key depressed on Miov.
he's
Just wanted to
dying.
live a chill life.
Yeah. I do think it is kind of cool because I like when they were talking about him at the beginning, before I kind of figured out that these were all one person, I was like, I wonder why like we're not having his perspective. Like he seems kind of like a key character, and I want to know his perspectives. Um, but maybe we'll get that in the other books. I don't know.
I'm gonna go get them tomorrow.
Yeah, I still have Kingdom of Copper after City of Brass to read. I'm just
So many books, so little time.
right.
And we're picking like big books, long
Just 'cause
series.
the series part is the killer. Big
Yeah.
books, I think they're okay. It takes time to
I'm
develop a new
enjoying it. I
world.
feel like I haven't been sucked into a series for a really long time. And I think, I don't know which one I'm going to enjoy more, The City of Brass or this. A lot of people speak highly of this.
I was gonna say I feel like I will like the fifth season better.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I think I will like it better because it is kind of that one character in perspective, and there's less politics than I think City of Brass, and I am not a fan of politics.
Right.
Um, so
Maybe
I think I will
the
enjoy
TV
this
show
better.
will do it. It'll, the TV show on Netflix for The City of Brass might do the politics justice, but reading
We'll
about it
see.
is a little different. Yeah, I see what you
I just find I don't like it's useful to the story, and I don't like it's an important part, but I don't necessarily enjoy reading
mean.
that part. So
I just feel whenever I read I know I really enjoy something when I can, like you said right at the beginning, you feel like you're going to be thinking about this book for a while. I feel like the writing was good in a way where I can visualize it in my mind and I'm going to be able to, I can picture the scenes. I'm going to be thinking about this for a while.
yeah,
Whereas
and even just
some of the scenes from The City of Brass have kind of, already gone. We just read it last month.
yeah,
But it's already kind of iffy, some of it.
gone
There's some visualizations where like the palace and, I can still picture like the courtyard,
riding the boat in.
flowers and the boat and scene at the end there. Maybe a bit of like Cairo at the beginning, but there's just something about her story or her world building that I definitely can visualize.
I feel like too, like it might stick a bit more just because it is so different. Like you have this giant crystal city underneath the ground in a lava bubble that's hardened. Like that takes a lot of imagination, and it takes a little bit more. Like she provides the details so you can picture it, but it's that extra step of work. It's not like just me picturing like another garden that I've been to. Oh, that's what a lush garden looks like. It must be similar to that kind of thing. So I think that's a little bit why it's more memorable. Is it's forcing us to
Sorry.
do it. Also, just the language of you do this, you think
I
this, like
She
that
got me
second
at that from
perspective.
the start. I got used to the second person, and
Yeah.
I think I would have hated this if the whole book was in second person.
Yes.
But you do get those breaks, and I wonder what her reasoning was behind using you for Usan's perspective. Like I wonder why she chose, switching between.
I feel like it allows us to connect better with that character. And I think it's too just like almost representative of us. Like if I look back at my past, I don't always think like in that same kind of perspective and connection. It's more like an observer, like this is what happened. So it's almost like the story is doing that. Like the real what's happening now is the you perspective, that second person. We're just kind of reflecting on the past and what's happened is that like third person.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've got this or felt this at all, but I feel like it definitely aids where Usan is Demaya Sinai in her stage of life after all this terrible stuff has happened. And
Mm-hmm.
that the second person almost aids, and she's definitely gone through a lot of trauma.
Yes.
And it almost seems like, yeah, we're following her storyline now in the present when she's older. It seems almost a bit removed in a way where it's kind
Yeah.
of that, like, it seems like she's, her husband has killed her child, and she's have gone through all this trauma, and she's just on this journey to find her daughter, and it's like it aids kind of a character who has gone through trauma in a way. Do you feel
Yeah,
that? I felt that.
it's like how like if you've been through trauma, sometimes you like separate yourself from it
Associate a
and
little bit.
almost like it desensitizes you. And it's almost like that where it's like I've removed
Yeah.
kind of myself from that. Like it's that different perspective. It is separate, even though it is still her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It's almost like she's telling, you wake up, and it's kind of like we're watching, how when some people say like you dissociate, you're kind of watching yourself. I
Yeah.
just feel like that. I don't want to use the
Yeah.
word,
I guess
but I
a
got
little
that
bit
vibe.
too. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I just really don't know. I'm curious to know why she chose that second person, but I think it works. Eventually I got used to it, and
I do
yeah,
like what you just said there about dissociation. And
yeah,
like that's definitely what's happening, especially at the beginning when she's like reeling from her son's death. And it's like, oh yeah, you are dissociating and like you're continuing to do that. And we are kind of in that perspective. Like,
yeah, it kind of gives me that well, now that we know more about her, and she's lost
yeah.
more than one child now, and yeah, and like, want to talk about the very ending there with how she leaves us off, seeing as I
I did.
just heard that, so I'm like, I want to talk about it.
I was like, what? Yeah.
What?
That was literally I put it down. I was like, wait, what just happened? Why is that the end? I was not satisfied with the end. I was like, I need like that cannot be the end. Like nothing's really resolved. No, like we've had this
Well,
whole journey and nothing is solved.
and that's what trilogies do to you. They want I feel like they always do that in
But
trilogies, where I feel like
there wasn't
you should give
even like a little bit of
yeah,
solving.
you should
There's
give
not even a
them a
little.
satisfying ending, but still want them to read the next book, but not just leave it completely like.
Yeah, this one is just like middle of chapter, like or like one chapter, nowhere near done. Oh, like it's 500 pages. How many pages is it actually? Okay,
430 something.
475 ish. So it's basically like, oh, we're almost 500 pages. Just end it here.
Yeah.
Like
And
it doesn't
well,
feel like an end to a book. It's just like because other like
that's kind of like the downfall, I think, sometimes of trilogies is it is hard to make it stand alone a very satisfying book when they know they have a next book coming to kind of.
yeah.
But what about the part with Hoa at the end?
I want to know more about him. Like
But did you like how he kind of.
is like a face off of ownership.
I'm sorry?
But it was like a face off of ownership between the two stonecutters. And it's very interesting because I'm like, there's definitely more going on there. And there's clearly some sort of battle or different people, but we know absolutely nothing about it.
No,
Other than that,
I've watched some reviews, and that's like a lot of people's thoughts is like we're just being kept in the dark throughout this whole thing.
which is kind
There
of,
are a lot of
I think
things.
it's kind of nice and fun to like have this
Fun.
mystery and sense of wonderment. Um, but I would like to be a little less in the dark. Have like a night light.
A little nightlight, just help me along the way here. I'm
What is
trying to find the thing
happening?
here. I just loved how it was Hoa who kind of, I'm trying to find it, where it's him that kind of, it was like, and she washed up on shore and I found her 3 weeks later or something.
Yeah,
Kind of, he's closing out the story. It's so weird because he's like this young child, but he's kind of creepy and we don't know. He could be really old, but he's kind of like a Yoda, like baby Yoda, like could be
yeah,
150 years old, but in still child form.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know why I can't find it, but I just thought that was really cool the way she ended that.
Yeah, I don't. It just leaves me
It
wanting
had
to
me
read more.
going. It had me doing this, and I haven't had a book do that for a long time.
It had me a couple moments, so like I do something where I just have to put it down. And I'm like, I just need like a moment to myself. And like normally, if that's from a book, like it happens because I'm like upset or
You can
like sad.
you can see my question. What? I was so confused. Like you could see me trying to figure it out. Like
Yeah,
because she
what is
doesn't
happening?
just straight up kind of goes into like Usan's point of view and then talking about that child, and I'm like, that Damaya meets. I'm like, wait. You can
Yeah,
see there, just like what is happening.
I do like that though. That it's like because so many other books, like I appreciated, for example, City of Brass and all the world building. Where this one is like the world's built and we just got thrust into it, or like
Yeah,
thrown into it,
yeah.
which is kind of nice because I'm like, okay, I don't have to go through the boring world building
Mm.
because that was kind of my complaint for the last book. But then, yeah, you're left in the dark.
Honestly, though, like round of applause to N.K. Jemisin. Like,
Yeah,
just well done. We read it so passively as consumers, but if you think about, just all the little details of this, where the heck did she come up with all this stuff, and
and
how
make
did
it work
she
well
know?
together.
I was googling what the heck is an obelisk, and it's just like so much cool
Yeah,
research and on geology and like intertwining it into fantasy. It's just like I could see why this has won a Hugo Award now.
it's a good book.
Definitely a unique read for sure.
What would you rate it out of 5?
I don't know. I actually hadn't thought about it yet because I literally just finished it, but it's so hard what constitutes a 5-star book because like I told you, for the first half, I hated it. And it's like every time I went to pick it up, I was just like
You
and
have
then
to.
I'd hit a passage and I was like, oh, this is really like I like this. And then like I said, we would jump on to another, but then I think as a whole it would probably be a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Because you have to just like wait to the end to all the pieces come together. Yeah, I would say 4.5 out of 5. What about you?
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5.
A
I I did really enjoy it, and
I don't know how to give
I
a
think
5.
it's gonna stick with me. We'll see. Like, we'll read more books, and I'll be like, oh no, that one wasn't actually a 5 out of 5. But no, I think this one, just because it gives you a lot to think about, and it's so different, but like, and I have so many questions because of that whole sense of mystery and being in the dark. Like, it's gonna stick with me.
Yeah, I think give
I
me
think
a
it's
little
5.
bit. Yeah, it would probably be a 5 out of 5 for me because, like I said, I just felt so in the dark the first half. But if I now knowing the ending, probably going back rereading, the storytelling is really good. Yeah, I would say probably
Yeah,
5 also.
between 4 and 5.
Award doesn't lie.
It's a good book. Highly recommend.
It's excellent.
What we should do at the end of the year is like reevaluate and be like, these are the scores we gave the book. Would we still give it that? Because
Yeah,
I
that's what
wonder
I
if that
do.
will
And
change.
get some time in between because since you finished it and towards the
You've
end
had
of the
time to think and like read other books to compare it to. Like, Did you see any parallels to City of Girls?
No dancing showgirls in this one.
No.
No.
I do
So
kind of, I guess, in the characters.
have you ever seen the movie, the How to Train Your Dragons movie?
Yes.
Yeah. You know the second one, the villain? Can you
I
picture him?
cannot pick. No!
Okay.
Like, what?
That
I
is how
can picture the main.
Indian. First, I don't know why. Like when I don't picture him as a villain, I picture him much sweeter. But how they explain how he's got like the long kind
Yeah.
of hair
Hair,
and
always has his shirt off,
yeah,
muscular.
kind of muscular. He's kind of like like a Maui
That's
type.
who I was picturing. I was picturing more like Maui.
I'm like, wait, these are
So,
cartoon characters. How
who would I picture real life? The Rock?
the oh my gosh, could you imagine the Rock
You know what?
playing?
I stand by that. I think that would
We
be a
can
good
wait. That would be
representation.
a win.
Yeah, he'd have to grow out his hair longer. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it
very,
was a good
very,
book.
very good book. Would you? Yeah, I'm very intrigued to read the next two. Uh, I'm very intrigued to read more science fiction now. I don't think science fiction. I think this is probably my first science fiction book. Science
It
fiction
is
fan.
my first one probably in a very long time. And definitely some of the science fiction books I've read were like not good science
Not
fiction.
good.
So
I especially
I
as two people with science degrees, you'd think that'd be a genre we like more. But I definitely like the science aspect of it.
yes,
Love that.
I think we could appreciate it more too because it's like no these are accurate things or a little bit I've learned about that. I've taken my geology courses.
It
So
kind of
like
has a little bit of realism to the fantasy in a way, where it
yeah,
makes you like sometimes when you read a fantasy, you're like,
it's just so
oh,
removed.
it's so removed, like this. Yeah, but this whole world just seems like something that could happen.
I think that's what makes it so good is it's oh no, like this could totally happen. Like
Yeah,
these like earthquakes and like have Pangea, one continent. Like this is it could happen. It really could. I
and
don't really know how we'd start to control the earth, but like that's the
that
fantasy element.
that part is where the fantasy comes in. But I love how powerful the characters are,
Yeah.
and how powerful their powers are, and I don't know what else to say. It's just great.
I also really liked that these powers weren't just like, oh, like I can make lights or like I can
I can
like
lift
be
that rock.
telepathic.
Yeah,
It's like it's not really a convenience to them. It's a convenience to people as a whole, but not necessarily to the individual, which is
like
I
Cyanide
think
said,
very
it's a
different.
curse, not a blessing. They feel like it's a
Yeah,
curse.
it's kind of that crisscrossing like you're blessing people as a whole by helping control the earth, but it's a lot of responsibility on you and you almost have this duty to do it, but like it's not necessarily really personally benefiting you in the same sense that other powers and a lot
Yeah,
of novels do. Yeah, I
I'm
feel
just
like
trying. Yeah, there's so many other scenes I'm sure we could talk about.
it's been an hour though, so I think
I know. I was gonna say anything else you want to say before we head off.
no, I think like it's a good book and I got to think about it a bit more and ask me in a month and I'll probably have a lot more thoughts.
Okay. Well, seeing as this is definitely one I think I'm gonna keep because
Yeah.
I've kind of taken an interest 2 or 3 years ago in writing, and certain books pique my interest in studying the writing, and I feel like
Yes.
like it definitely requires a reread. There's so much beautiful writing and beautiful descriptions in here that I was rushing through to make it to
Yeah.
the discussion. Um, but I just think she's a really good writer and well deserved with the Hugo Award for sure.
Yeah,
Can't
I
wait.
definitely will be reading more of her books, I think.
Me too. Well, maybe, who knows, in the future we'll do what's the next one? So the next one's the Obelisk Gate, and then the last one's the Stone Sky.
I have so many questions.
Maybe we'll do one in the future, or if you want to
We'll
just
see.
read it on your own, I'll read it on my own, and then we could do a discussion at some point. But definitely, this book is going to keep resurfacing on our Instagram, I think.
Yes. It's a very good book.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see you all.
We have to say tonight.
Pardon?
I was just saying, I think that's everything that we have to say. We still have to announce our book for August.
I think we're gonna have to decide that right after this.
Yeah,
we've got some ideas, so we'll let you know what it is.
Too many ideas, too many lists.
That would be the challenge.
Kind of hard.
Yes, but if you guys who are watching have your own ideas of what even style of book you'd like, please let us know. It will help us narrow down from our various lists.
It would help us a lot.
Yes.
All right. See you, Christine. We will chat later about what book for August. I'm excited to see what's next.
Me too. Thanks.
All right. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.